Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Displayland podcast. I'm your host, Ollie,
And I'm your other host, Joey.
and today we're going to be taking you through recent news and weather, especially. And we're also going to have an amazing interview with Trevor Graham from Midlands Air Festival. And to round us off, we're going to be talking through this week's Takeoff Thursday, or should we mainly say Static Saturday? Joey, do you want to get us started with this week's humongous war news segment?
Yeah, this is the longest war news segment we have had. It is a whopping 0 news bits long. Yeah, there has been, at least that I've seen, nothing has happened this week.
Not in the
But like,
aviation sector, can I
what
just say? There has been war news,
yeah,
not in the aviation sector.
there has been war news, yeah. But as far as aviation, there's been no war news that at least I saw or could find. So do you want to kick us off with a bit of the weather news we've got?
Yeah, so we're going to start off with some quite severe weather actually that happened in Mississippi, with there being at least three preliminary EF4 tornadoes. Now, we can't actually confirm if there are three separate EF4 tornadoes or if there is one tornado that's sort of like recycled and also were all EF4 tornadoes. So right now we are very sort of lack knowledge on this, as this happened Wednesday, one day, well, less than that, sort of like 12 hours ago from the recording of this podcast on the 7th of May. So right now we only have a few preliminary EF4 reports. However, there are reports of winds being up to 194 miles per hour, which is about 20 mile an hour more than the Enid tornado we spoke about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, one of these storms actually received 4 tornado emergencies in 2 hours. Now, most storms receive a tornado warning, which is just letting you know there is a tornado there, either based on radar indication that makes them believe there's a tornado there, or observed, which means they've seen a tornado there. But then there's a PDS tornado warning, which means particularly dangerous situation. It's when there is a strong confirmed tornado on the ground. And then there is the highest level possible, which is the tornado emergency. It is a confirmed violent tornado on the ground, and its path could lead to a populated area. This is the highest level they can give, and one storm got 4 of them in the span of 2 hours, which is just mental. We have not seen anything like this in a long time.
So, Joey, do you want to like sort of describe the difference between a strong and a violent tornado, just for our viewers at home who may not understand the difference?
Yeah, see, it's not really a set in stone definition, but people typically start calling them violent tornadoes once they reach EF4 strength plus. So you're typically looking at around 160 mile an hour plus strength winds on the tornado. A strong tornado is typically up to the EF3 range, so they could do significant damage, but it can't completely level a home that's well built. It can't do any of that, but it is still strong. Whereas a violent tornado, if you're in even your storm shelter, you might not be safe. These things are very dangerous, and 4 tornado emergencies on the same storm is just mental.
And I believe that the amount of tornado emergencies on this one storm exceeds the amount of tornado emergencies in America of 2026 so far. So I believe there's only been at least around two or three tornado emergencies before yesterday, and now there has been at least seven that me and Joey can find. But Joey, you also mentioned that there has been a wedge tornado in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So you want to take us a little bit of the information around that?
Yeah, so there's not a lot of information on it just because of sort of when and where it happened, and its visibility wasn't great at the time. But there is videos and pictures of damage and a tornado that happened in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And based on the videos, and especially one of the clips that I saw, it was a multi-vortex, which typically only happens with your strong to violent tornadoes. You're looking at the EF3 plus range for a multi-vortex tornado. This is just when it's not one continuous funnel to the ground. It typically goes most of the way to the ground, and then the bottom cuts off, and you get these sort of really small but very strong mini tornadoes on the ground. And those are very, I don't want to say rare, because in places like America you get several of these per year, but especially in a place like Buenos Aires, Argentina, you is at least the first that I've seen of a strength like a tornado of this strength in that area.
Yeah, I mean, multi-vortex tornadoes aren't particularly rare, like you said. I mean, there'll be at least 50, maybe 100, depending on how severe sort of April and May are. So within those sort of few months, there'll be hundreds of them. Yeah, basically, like we mentioned a few weeks ago and like last week and over the last few weeks, they are basically just very strong versions of the main core, but are like 1/20th of their size. So yeah, I mean, quite rare in Argentina, but in America you'll see them on pretty much most violent and even strong tornadoes. I mean, the Bremen tornado got rated EF1, and that had a multi vortex for most of its lifespan. So yeah, they're not particularly rare, but sometimes they aren't as damaging as people say.
Yeah, so moving on to a different country, there was a couple of funnels spotted in the UK. This, at least I saw it today, and a post from today, as of the 7th of May. But you actually have some British weather news of your own. Do you want to take us a bit through that?
Yeah, so last week there was quite a lot of sort of strong weather coming up from like France and places like that, that sort of came over my area. I was in a 5% sort of risk area of severe weather, like including thunderstorms, and there was a very, very small risk of tornadoes as well. Like Joey said, there were some funnel clouds, and I believe there were some funnel clouds in the south of England, just not by me, unfortunately. But I went on a call through Discord with Joey, and I went outside with an umbrella. I put a picture up of that my mum got of us, well, me and Joey on the phone, outside with a little umbrella. I took some toy cars out there as well, just to pretend for some like pretend intercepts, for like just for fun, really, not really for any reason. So I took some of these like little model cars outside and had a bit of fun with those. And at the end of the sort of like session, well, sort of before that, just before I went inside, about 10 minutes before I went inside, I saw that some of these were knocked over. Now, you don't have to believe that I didn't touch them myself, but Joey, you can back me up here and say I did not move off the stool that I was stood on, when I was on call to you, because I had my camera on and obviously I was showing him the line of storms that were coming in, because there was actually a really beautiful just line where you could see the two like thunderstorms sort of overlapping and sort of rolling around each other. But yeah, I stood on basically a stool outside in my garden and put these little cars on the train tracks, and these three here had basically rolled over and come off the train tracks, which are there'll probably be a picture up on the screen, so you can see that. And these two didn't, and I mean it's very surprising. But we did also have, well, I personally had a gust nado go over my house. So Joey, do you want to explain a bit about what gust nado is before I sort of continue the story?
Yeah, so a tornado is sort of similar to those things you might see if you're out and about near some buildings. You'll see in like the corner where some buildings walls meet, you might get like a rotating circle of leaves. And it's sort of like that, but on the bigger scale and caused by a big gust of wind. And as it moves through all these houses and stuff, it starts to spin up a little bit. It's not a tornado, it is a gust tornado. They can be relatively strong. But this one that hit you, I remember you was on call, stood on your stool with your umbrella, and it blew you off of the
It
stool
did, yeah.
and nearly broke the umbrella, which was a strong umbrella as well. That was not just a normal umbrella. Um, but it, based on what I could see and a bit of analysis from
And
ChatGPT,
estimates of
uh,
like weight
and
and
estimates of like
carbon
weight
material or
like
whatever
that.
it was, yeah.
We're looking at like a 50-mile-an-hour gust of wind that hit you over like a couple of seconds. It wasn't just a brief
Mm.
gust that rushed past. It was a couple of seconds long as well.
Yeah, so the cloud actually. So basically, it was a very low level cloud, which I did get a picture of actually. And I would have got a video of the gustnado hitting me, but obviously because I was on call to Joey, you can't like record while being on a call or whatever. But I got a picture of the cloud, and as that cloud went over me, it basically went directly over the top of me. Just a strong gust of wind for about 20 seconds straight blew like just over me. And I honestly got blown back over the stool. The umbrella, instead of being like that or whatever, it was like bent backwards. So it was like that instead of you know how like an umbrella goes that way instead of over you or whatever, and it did that. And I was just getting blown around off my stool. And Joey, you could see the trees were like blowing like 20 times harder than they were. There was basically no wind for like that entire time. And then this cloud comes over and it just blows me around. And that's what me and Joey believe basically rolled these, because they weren't exactly like glued to the ground or whatever. It was literally just some toy cars that I put on the tracks just in case something ever happened, and then that happened. So yeah, for some rough estimates, Joey, I think you said the range was about 45 to 70 mile an hour of sort of like wind blowing at me. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, that's technically my first sort of strong wind intercepts. Unfortunately, not a tornado, but then again, who wants a tornado hitting their house? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, no, it was actually really cool, and I got quite a lot of photos from it actually. So I'll put some of those up on the screen.
Yeah, I suppose the main thing that happened was when the umbrella inverted, it was actually pointed into the wind. So the wind had to have changed directions, which is what makes us believe that it was more like a gustnado
Yeah.
than just some turbulence in the air. But the cars were rolled to the left, you was pushed backwards, and the umbrella was pushed forwards, all within the span of about 5 seconds. So that's what makes us believe it was more of a gustnado than just a big gust of wind.
But then again, no one has to believe us. I mean, we're not saying you have to. I mean, my mum didn't believe me. So I mean, that was great. I came in telling her that my cars had been rolled and the umbrella had folded out or whatever. And she's like, yeah, yeah, sure, whatever, yeah. I was like, well, you don't have to believe me, but I'm not lying here and that. But yeah, like I said, you don't have to believe us, but it is something that did happen, and it is something that happens when low, very this was at like 200 feet, maybe a bit higher. But that is what happens when very low but very fast moving clouds go over you. It sort of brings the wind shear and it brings the very sudden and quick moving wind with it.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of the time that my house may or may not have gotten hit by a tornado. I can't confirm it, but I remember hearing a lot of commotion outside, looking out my window, and there were just leaves flying past my window, like a wall of leaves flying past at easily over 70 miles an hour. And it lasted for about 2 seconds and then just moved on. And no one believed me that what I saw, like they all heard the commotion, but no one believed me when I said that was probably a tornado or
It
gustnado.
probably was a
They were just, oh, it was
gustnado
just
if
a bit
I'm to
windy.
say, yeah.
Yeah. It was a stormy day, but it wasn't really primed for tornadoes, so it was very likely a gustnado, but if it was a very strong one because, I mean, the tree outside had no leaves on it by the end of that. There was leaves on it before, and there was basically none left, so at the very least, it was a strong gustnado.
Yeah, so obviously I have a job and everything, and I work. So me and Joey sort of discussing saving up for like an anemometer, so like sort of wind speed measurement, and sort of like sort of very basic intercepting equipment. So just wind speed, temperature difference. I mean, even getting a like a jug or something to collect the water to see how much like millimeters per hour it is, and sort of taking that outside, and maybe even getting a drone as well. So there was, like I said, I was in about a 5% tornado risk area, and I can see if I go high enough, I can actually see like Portsmouth from where I live. Obviously, I'm not going to dox where I live or anything, but I can see Portsmouth from where I live um, if I go slightly high enough. Because my house personally is in a dip, but if I go to like the top of my road, I can see the Spinnaker Tower and everything. So that is mainly where you're going to get thunderstorms and like tornadoes and stuff, or funnel clouds mainly, or even water spouts. That me and Joey, that's what me and Joey thought we might see if we had a drone or whatever. I don't think that it was anything in the end by Portsmouth, but if I got like a drone with a camera on it and flew up high enough and obeyed the drone laws and everything and didn't record people. I don't know why you would ever do that, but yeah, it would have been something that would have been so cool to get some footage of. But unfortunately, I don't have a drone at the moment. But yeah, like I said, we are investing in. Well, I might be investing in like an anemometer and a drone.
Yeah, I personally will hopefully one day have an anemometer, but my efforts are currently focused on getting this thing to fly. So it's not really my priority at the minute. But speaking of rockets and getting back onto the news, moving on to the space news, which is my personal favorite segment. We had a Falcon 9 launch, which is very routine. This is not really that important of news, but what is important is the booster landing, which they do also routinely, but this was the 268th booster landing in a row that was successful, which makes it their new personal best. They had 267 or 268 previously, and then one tipped over. But they are on a new record for the most booster landings successfully in a row, which is just incredible. It's just proven that this is sort of the future for space travel. They are reducing the costs by hundreds of millions of dollars by reusing these boosters.
All thanks
And
to young
speaking of
Sheldon as
boosters,
well, giving him his
all
knowledge.
thanks to young
Yeah, all
Sheldon, yeah.
thanks to young
Yeah,
Sheldon.
all thanks to young Sheldon, yeah. Speaking of young Sheldon and boosters, Booster 19 on the Starship program, also SpaceX, performed a 14-second long static fire on. today as of recording this, which is Thursday the 7th, which is the longest static fire that a version 3 booster has done. They had a V2, they had a V3 booster before, and it exploded during testing. Booster 19 has done static fires before, but they had to cut it short because there was a ground side issue. One of the they sort of just shoot water up to avoid uh, like blowing the launch pad apart, and the pressure gauge on one of the water systems was too low, and it's not really what you want when you need that water pressure to stop everything from just melting. So they cut that one short, but as of today, I missed it unfortunately, but as of today, they have done the 14-second, as far as we're aware, full duration static fire, so no issues during the static fire, which puts them on track for their launch scheduled on May 15th, which I will be watching at 11:30 p.m. UK time. So it's a bit of a late one, but I've stayed up till later to watch rocket launches. I was on holiday at 3 o'clock in the morning watching Artemis 2 fly past the moon. So I think watching a launch at 11:30 at night, just at home, is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and that's also the reason why we didn't have a promo, like we mentioned, actually on today's promo. No, on tomorrow's promo, as of time of recording this, we didn't have one because basically, uh, they changed all the launch dates like 5 minutes before we're about to change the to before we're about to post the promo video. So yeah, I mean that's the only reason. And Joey was out at the time as well, so we didn't exactly have time to film another one to change it. And obviously we can't post a video with complete false information, so we just decided not to post it and then mention it on tomorrow's promo or 2 days ago's promo if you're watching it on the Sunday that we release this on. But we're going to move on to the normal news now, and we have quite a few plane hitting things news this week. So we start off with a plane hitting a truck. So, Joey, do you want to take us a little bit through that?
Yeah, so this happened in New York, I believe, something like that. And it on landing on approach, it just came in very low over the, I guess they call it interstate in America. And it clipped the top of a truck and a light lamppost, which caused damage to the actual fuselage of the plane. There was sort of like a gash in the side of the plane, and the truck had a smashed windshield as well. The driver was okay. From the initial videos everyone saw, it looked like it would have been a lot worse for the truck because all we had was the internal footage from the
And
truck.
it looked very
But after
bad,
seeing
yeah.
some, yeah, bad. But obviously, since the camera would be literally right underneath the windshield, when the windshield cracks in, all the glass is flying in front of the windshield and the camera. So it looked a lot worse than it was. But after we got some external footage, we saw that it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, so this aircraft was actually in Newark, New Jersey, not New York, as Joey. I don't think he actually said it on the podcast, but just after, as we were clarifying this. Easy mistake to make. I mean, Newark, New Jersey, and New York. I mean, they're quite similar. They all begin with N, and I mean, New are in both new. I mean, they're all new is in all of them. So yeah, quite an easy mix up. But yeah, Newark, New Jersey, and from now, the driver of the truck only had very minor injuries. But we're going to move on to another plane that hit a building in eastern Brazil with a very small light Embraer aircraft. Now we only know, well, I only know that there was one occupant. Well, we know the condition of one occupant, which is that he had a very snapped leg, to say the least. You could sort of it's very graphic. You could sort of see it not very attached properly to his body. But Joey has more information on this matter.
Yeah, so this was a light aircraft that, based on the footage and based on everyone's sort of opinion on the footage, stalled out near the end of it. It was sort of coming in a very slow glide, and then near the end of the glide, it sort of pitched over to the left, presumably stalling at that point, and collided with a not a small building, but like imagine apartments. It was like an apartment building, and from what I've heard stuff like conflicting reports, basically saying there's two or three occupants in the plane. But what we do know, as Ollie said, is one of them has pretty severe injuries to one of his legs. And I couldn't find much on the other two occupants of the plane or the one occupant of the plane. But yeah, as Ollie said, this happened in eastern Brazil, more like southeastern Brazil. Uh, the city name I wouldn't be able to pronounce it even if I knew it. But apparently this happened some 4 kilometers away from the nearest runway. So whether it was just after takeoff or it was coming into land, that would explain its low speed and sort of why this had happened. It was 4 kilometers away from the nearest runway, so it's not something we want to see happening. It's not something we enjoy covering, but it is playing news, and we have to say it.
Yeah, well, I assume that it probably hadn't just taken off if the nearest airport was 4 kilometers away. So I assume it was probably just, sort of in the middle of its flight. Maybe it was going to that airport that was 4 kilometers away. We don't actually know the flight details. But yeah, it's not something, like Joey said, it's not something that we like covering. But at least from the occupant that we do know, at least he's alive and injured rather than unfortunately passing away, like maybe other occupants did. But again, we only know the condition of one of the passengers or pilots in this incident. But now we move on to some very unfortunate news, actually, of the departure of Spirit Airlines. Now, the airline has collapsed, it's gone, and thousands of people are out of a job, unfortunately. And it basically collapsed overnight. I mean, we knew it was coming for many weeks, but then just overnight it completely collapsed after there was no government deal. So basically, they were going to make a deal with the government for the government to own Spirit Airlines, sort of like how EasyJet is sort of owned by and like funded by the government. However, they couldn't come to a deal on that, unfortunately. So yeah, they are unfortunately gone now. Basically, due to coronavirus, really, that took a heavy impact on a lot of these smaller sort of budget airlines like EasyJet, like Spirit Airlines, which is why EasyJet is only alive because the government funds it, and Spirit Airlines now is unfortunately no longer a thing.
Yeah, this is after many decades of service. It has a sort of reputation in the aviation community or just the general public community in America as being the budget airline. It's sort of like America's answer to Ryanair or
Yeah.
EasyJet, as you mentioned. Um, but this is not something we want to see. It's a great livery on an aircraft. You don't really see many bright coloured aircraft. But this was sort of it was sort of coming since COVID, as you said. We all saw it happening, but apparently a lot of the pilots did not see it coming. At least not that specific moment, because there is footage of people on a flight, and after it landed, the pilot crying over the radio, talking to the passengers about how he had served Spirit for like 20 years, and he just found out overnight about
Yeah.
that being his last flight. So it seems to have surprised a lot of people, even though we sort of knew it was coming soon. But the exact date of it happening was just unknown. But what I have seen is a TikToker actually trying to purchase Spirit Airlines certificate of like authenticity or something like that. They have a certificate that is basically they own Spirit Airlines, and there is a TikToker currently working with lawyers to buy it. I'm not sure that he's going to do much with it, but he is just buying it for fun. So that's not something we really see ever happen, especially in the aviation world. Is just someone buying it for a TikTok video. But we may see a TikTok Airlines in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about last week. I mean, the last week's episode was literally focused on how aviation itself is sort of dying. Really, it's collapsing, and many aircraft and are going out of service. And it's a shame that airlines are also going out of service. I mean, there are. I mean, airlines contribute a lot to the economy of the country that they're running, and they there's a lot of people that depend on them. Not only the people who work for that company, but also people who need those airlines to travel to places, maybe for work, especially if they can't afford things like American Airlines, British Airways, and stuff like that. So I mean, it's really unfortunate that some of these budget airlines are going out of service because of the amount of people that really do depend on them.
Yeah, I personally fly Ryanair somewhat frequently, but I just can't imagine the alternative would be like British Airways, but the cost equivalent, it just doesn't exist. Ryanair,
Yeah.
you could get a flight for £25 there and back to wherever you're going. You just can't get that with any other airline, and because the costs are so low, so are the profits. And if something hits them like COVID, it can really rock them for a long time. It'll take them a while to recover from something like that. But moving on to sort of the last bit of aviation news we have is a China Eastern Airlines Airbus A350 colliding with a jet bridge at Shanghai. I'm going to butcher this name, Hongqiao, Hongqiao International Airport. I definitely butchered that pronunciation. But what surprised me about this is the amount of camera angles of this. You have people from inside the airport recording the plane as it hit the jet bridge. You have people from outside of the airport recording the plane from behind hitting the jet bridge. You have people on the plane recording the cameras on the tail hitting the jet bridge, and there's not like any injuries or anything at least that I've seen. It collided with it at a very slow speed, but there is damage to the aircraft, and they'll have to repair that. But just the amount of angles that we have for footage of this thing is just insane.
Yes, I mean it's a very bizarre incident, really, but I mean this is just a very simple mistake from the pilots, and you're gonna have this every once in a while. I mean, there's thousands of flights a day and millions of flights a year. There's going to be one that you accidentally put the throttle up a little bit too much, or you don't take it down quick enough. So it's gonna happen, and it's just a bit of a bizarre incident at the end of the day. But yeah, like you said, it's quite strange that we have a lot of camera angles, but we don't want to make this new segment too long, as we do want to make sort of this podcast the main focus, which is our interview coming up next with Trevor Graham. So we will see you then on Zoom, actually. So I know I'll probably have to do some sort of editing to make it look better, but yeah, we will see you on Zoom in part two.
I think what's important to note before you end this is this was recorded at the time this is posted just over a week ago. It was recorded on Saturday, the uh, second or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but Saturday a week before this releases. So if anything's outdated or sort of incorrect, it's because of the time that it was recorded. It was recorded a week ago, and since the air show is quickly approaching, things change
Yeah.
very quickly on the lead up to an air show. So if there is anything that is sort of outdated in that, that would explain why it was recorded a week ago.
Yeah, and if you do have any questions, if anything has changed, please let us know on Instagram, and we will get back in contact with Midlands. I mean, we still are in contact, so I'm sure if anything, we can try and update the information that's going on. But yeah, we'll see you in part two, everyone. So now we're going to move on to part two of this podcast, where we have a special guest on today. So Joey, do you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, so you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a bit about what you do.
Right, okay. I'm Trevor Graham. I am the Director of Aviation for the Midlands Air Festival, and I'm also one of the original organisers and creators of the show.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, it's great to meet you. And well, our main first question really is: so, what's it like organising an air show? So, obviously, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. So, do you want to just take us through a little bit about what really happens?
Okay, organising an air show is a year-long activity. It starts probably 2 days after the last one with a wash-up meeting. And then we are constantly working on it from that day on to the day that we arrive at the show site. Um, with Midlands, we have a very small team that runs it. We've got four main people, which are me, the Director of Aviation. Then there's James McDonald, whose main activity is coordinating all the balloons and also doing a lot of the admin stuff. We've got an event organizer who takes care of stuff that's what we call landside, as opposed to airside, where I live. And we've got the people that actually own the site, which is Ragley Hall. So between the four of us, we're constantly talking to each other. There's phone calls every night with updates, with sorting out problems and things that arise. You would think that it would be okay to just run from last year to the next year, but of course, new things pop up that have to be sorted, and display items that you think you want but you can't get, and then suddenly you can get them, and then suddenly you can't get them again. So it's a constant drip feed of work, really.
Yeah, and you mentioned a little bit about like how the acts sort of change in what you can get and what you want to get. What is the process of getting these acts and displays?
Um, to a large degree, there are two ways of getting your acts. The first one, of course, is to apply for the military MOD items, and that includes things like the Red Arrows, Battle of Britain Memorial Flight, all that sort of stuff, the helicopters from JAC, and they have to be applied for at a certain time. They've all got to be applied for at around September time. Big problem with those, and a lot of people don't realise this, even some of the more experienced airshow people, is that we don't book them, we apply for them. And then we've got to wait for a long time before we're told even a hint of whether we're going to get them. So when people say, oh, why don't you apply for why don't you book the Red Arrows, or why don't you book this, why don't you book that? Those items we have no control over. We get allocated them if they think that we're suitable, or they are not doing anything else. And of course, all the MOD stuff, the military stuff, have got other things that they've got to think about, like the current situation in the world. For instance, are all the typhoons going to be tied up in Akrotiri, or are they going to be tied up at the Falklands? All that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of a nail biter, really. We apply for virtually everything that we can, and then we wait. The other items, the civilian items, most of those are available, and if they're affordable, because virtually everything that we get at an air show costs money, and costs a lot of money. So you have to budget what you can afford, because you can't put the prices up too much. We tend to try and be as value for money as we can, and help out small families and that sort of thing, and keeping our prices down. But that does affect sometimes the things that you really, really want. For instance, Duxford can do endless big Spitfire formations, because they've got a lot of those Spitfires based at Duxford, and a lot of them are shall we say, paying back their rent. They're paying back their hangarage by doing those. We can't do that. We haven't got a museum or an airfield. We have to put everything together and put it all on. From the Tuesday we get there till the Monday we leave. So that's basically how it works.
So do you overbook air shows? So do you sort of apply for more acts than can fill the schedule, and then sort of pick and choose off of that, or do you sort of just choose what acts you would like, and then if they can't sort of attend the show, do you then go for others?
Yeah, it's the other way. It's the last way round. We can't overbook, really, because that would be very unfair to our pilots. They would think they've got a booking, and then we ditch them. So that's not the way it works. We book. We come up with what we want. We come up with a balanced program, a flying program of everything that we want. We may put one item in as a standby in case there's a tech issue with one of the aircraft. He'll be a smaller based aircraft based at Ragley. So basically, we start thinking about the program around the August time of the previous August, and then we start generally booking and confirming aircraft in a stream after that, and then we sit back and wait for the people to tell us that their aircraft's gone tech. They can't fly for whatever reason, and then we put in substitutes. But basically, it's a long-term thing. It's not a one Tuesday night we all sit down and say, right, that's what we want, and off we go. It's a very long and tortuous thing, getting an airshow together. Very much so.
Yeah, I will say it is a great lineup this year. At least it'll be my first time attending the air show, and it's looking like it'll be a very good lineup, especially compared to not going to the air show. I can't wait.
Great, yeah. Well, what we try and do is Midlands Air Festival is an air festival. It's not an air display as such. It's got all sorts of things to do with flying, and that's where the balloons came in. We put those in as well because both James and I had a lot of experience with balloons and how to use them, at a big show. You often, I don't know how often you went to other shows, but there are some times when you go to a show and there's the odd balloon put up at the end of the day, if you're lucky, or it might fly before you get there. And that's a problem with balloons, and then they largely be discounted by the airshow enthusiast. Yeah, got some balloons, so what? But we both come from an airshow and a balloon show background, so we know what to do with them, and how difficult they are. And if you think it's difficult booking aircraft, you try and put together 100 balloons. They are it's like knitting fog. They're very ethereal. They've got their own way of doing things, and of course, on the day, they could very well not fly at all, because anything over about 7 knots of wind, they get moody and go back in their trailers.
Yeah, I mean, I've been
So
going for the last few years, and I mean, my family personally always get up really early to watch the hot air balloons. I mean, obviously looking at the weather app beforehand and making sure that at least it's sunny or something like that. And
yeah,
it's always, honestly, such a great display, just watching all the hundreds of air balloons take off and go over. I mean, last year they went over our heads and that, and yeah, I love the commentary as well. The commentary is always great on the balloons, and I mean, honestly, there's not that many people who, I mean, there's still quite a lot, but compared to the full show's attendance, there's not really that many people that are that interested in balloons, and it's sort of a bit sad because I enjoy watching them. I mean, the night glow and everything, where they all light up and everything, that honestly, I mean, hot air balloons make up, at least 30-40% of the show, and I think that that's what people should be enjoying, not just the flying display during the day.
yeah, that's what we try and do. We just try and convincing people. We get a pretty good response from the night fire show, which you just alluded to, and that is really spectacular. And once you've seen that, until you see it, you don't realise how spectacular it is, and then when you see it, you realise that it's a fabulous night out. That's why we do it on a separate night. Two reasons. One, that if we tried to do that and a full air display, we'd all be absolutely shattered by
Yeah.
about 9 o'clock. So we have to put that on, because it's as you've seen, it's a massive show all on its own, even without the main air show. But we do try and put on a decent air show before that, for the people that turn up before it gets dark. So you are getting most of everything. In previous years, we've had the Red Arrows all 3 days, but I think there's a Families Day on at one of the big bases. I think it's Bryce Norton, so we can't get them this year on the Friday, but we have got the Team Raven instead for that, and we've got the big ticket jet, the MiG, on all 3 days as well. So we do our best.
Yeah, I'm annoyed personally that I won't be able to go early enough to see the hot air balloons, because I am going to be driving down multiple hours to see Midlands Air Festival, and I'm hoping next year that I can stay somewhere nearby and watch everything. But this year, unfortunately, I won't be able to see the night show or the hot air balloons.
Yeah, it's a shame. I would suggest do the Friday and the Saturday, and then you get the best of both worlds. There's something I can't really tell you about it at the moment. There's something, if it works, it's about 50% at the moment. If it works, there'll be a nice little thing going on the Sunday this year with the Red Arrows, but I can't tell you any more at this stage, to this date, because it's not confirmed yet. So,
And you want it to be sort of a surprise and everything as well. You don't want to spoil it until it really happens, really.
No, that's right, and well, we will tell people about it beforehand, as soon as they have confirmed from the Red Arrows end that they can do it. It's nothing, it's nothing groundbreaking. It won't shatter anybody's illusions or anything, but it will be a nice little thing extra, especially if you like the Red Arrows.
I mean, me and Joey love the Red Arrows. One of our podcasts a few weeks ago was about the Red Arrows. It's like a whole hour of talking about the Red Arrows. So yeah, me and Joey are big fans of the Red Arrows. But I mean, our main question, sort of going back to balloons, is so what's it like having one of the largest gatherings of balloons at an air show every year? I mean, it can't be easy, really.
No, it's not easy, and it's a question of scale as well, because you have to host. If we have 100 balloons, remember that each balloon has maybe 3 to 4 crew members, so all that lot got to be fed. That's almost a show on its own, just in with the crew members. That's a small show, about 1,000 people. And they've all got to be fed, they've got to be entertained, they've got to have special camping sites and all that sort of stuff. Plus, we have the set of regulations, which is slightly different to the air display regulations, which have got to be coordinated and melded, shall we say, into the main event. And then we've got they have separate briefings to the air show. And we've got to have a balloon flying director as well as a display flying director. They have to have a safety team, safety flying team. We have a safety flying team, and I sit right at the top of that, over the top of all the safety teams, basically telling them no, they can't do that, and no, they can't do this. So, and of course, the good part about it is that, as you found out, we can put on the balloons before the air display and after the air display.
Yeah.
So they're not in confliction. We're not trying to fly balloons in the middle of the air display, which is
probably better
crazy.
anyway, because the winds don't usually allow it in the midday anyway. It's usually very
Absolutely.
calm at the start and at the end.
Yeah, you can't. In this country, you can't fly balloons in the daytime. About 9 o'clock in the morning is about the latest you want to be up there, and about 7 o'clock in the evening is about the time when you want to be launching, mainly for thermic activity. Now,
Yeah.
if you go up during the day, the thermals that gliders they love it. They love thermals. Are the very thing that will tear your balloon in half and send you into a tree. So it all works very well if you know what you're doing with them. And James has massive contacts in that area. I was a commentator and producer of a lot of the big balloon shows in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s, when ballooning was at its height. It's dropped off a little bit now because the money's not there, the sponsorship's not there, and a lot of the big shapes, special shapes balloons were only were only there because of the sponsorship that they received. So we haven't got that now. But we still do well. We do. I think we've got about 30 shapes and over 100 rounds this year. And when they will fly, as you've seen, it's something to be looked at.
Yeah, it is unfortunate that it's a dying art form because, I mean, just seeing a hot air balloon just out and about, just if you're on a drive or something, it is just spectacular to see a
Yeah,
hot air balloon.
yeah.
And once again, I'm annoyed that I won't be able to see the one this year, but hopefully next year I'll be
Well, fingers
see
crossed
another
we're
one.
all still here and we're all still doing it. Then, yeah, you'll be able to come up and stay for 2 days. That's the answer. Stay for 2 days or
Yeah.
camp if you're into camping. Just come up and camp. We've got a decent campsite with showers and entertainment and a bar and a little shop and
Yeah, I
stuff.
stayed there in the sort of tents thing that like the canopy tents, what was it,
Oh yeah,
glamping or
yeah,
whatever, in
yeah,
2022 or 2023, whenever that was. That was my first year going there. My favourite special shape is always the F1 car, just because I love Formula One and
yeah.
I love seeing that the last few years. But we should probably move on to the next question, which is, so how did the show sort of come around? It's quite a newish show, so do you want to sort of take us through how it
Yes,
started?
yeah. Well, I've been in air displays and balloon shows for many years. Many years that I wouldn't like to admit to, especially looking at you guys who are not exactly old. Excuse me. And I've been involved in. I was involved in right the way back to the Great Warbirds Air Show. None of these shows you'll probably know. Great Warbirds Air shows, the Fighter Meet Air shows, Flying Legends, Coventry, way back years and years and years. And I also started the Western Sorry, the Western Supermare air show, seaside air show, and also the several other little shows, smaller shows. And I was doing commentary at a balloon festival that was actually rained off. We were just sitting in a tent in the pouring rain, and it wasn't a very good show to start with. But we were just sitting there in the rain, waiting to go home, in effect. And James came up and he said to me, "I know you." I said, "Do you?" He said, "Yes." He said, "I used to go to the Bristol Balloon Festival with my parents." I said, "Oh, good." And we used to sit outside the commentary box and listen to your commentary. I said, "Oh, really? Thank you very much." And then we got talking, and we got talking about various shows and things. And that's where it actually came from, probably about 2016, something like that. And then I sort of said, well, my idea is to have a combined international air show and balloon festival together, so that you get the best of both worlds. And of course, the big problem with balloons on their own is if you get a bit of wind and they can't fly, you've got 20,000 people there waiting for you to do something. So if you've got an air show as well, the air show is not generally rained off or weathered off. So you can generally say, well, you've had a great day out with the air show. We're very sorry about the balloons, but they didn't fly. Or if they do fly, then you've got a fantastic, even more fantastic show. So that's how it came about. And we looked around for a suitable site, and Ragley Hall came up from one of my colleagues. He said, well, that would be a great place to have an air show. It is, but of course we have to put everything in. We have to put our own runway in for the 3 days. We've got to put everything in: toilets, roadways, and all that sort of stuff. So it's challenging, but it's still a great place to go to, and it's a really nice place to have an air show. Nice place to go and have a picnic and sit and watch things. And you've got the hill there, so that most people get a really good view. And that's how it all came about.
I suppose this one relates to me. As I've mentioned a few times already, it's my first time going to Midlands Air Festival. Is there anything that you would recommend people going for their first times, like what they should do, what days they should go on, or if there's anything you would suggest?
It depends on what floats your boat, really. If you are a Red Arrows enthusiast, then obviously make sure that you're going on the day the Reds are flying. This year, that's Saturday and Sunday. If you're more generally interested in stuff, then maybe the Friday with the big ending of the day with the night glow and the fireworks and that sort of stuff. Family outing. Maybe if you're just out for a family outing and looking for a spectacular show, not just an air show, then the Friday is probably the best. But this year, I would say best day. If you're into in the Red Arrows, then probably Sunday. Saturday is the most popular day. I think that's because of the mums wanting the rest of the weekend off.
Yeah, it's probably the easiest day as well, because people have work usually on the Monday and like college and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I always enjoy the Saturday, probably my favourite. But yeah, the show's really sort of family friendly. I mean, my family goes every year now, and there's so many stalls to go to. There's like fun fair stuff for the kids. I mean, I love the flight line walk for the slipstream enclosure, which we have now since you introduced it, which was amazing last year, and hopefully it's going to be awesome again this year. So there's always stuff to do for like the entire family, really, and it's probably I rated it within like the top 2 or 3 air shows that I've ever been to. So
yeah, great, thank you very much. Yeah, well, we do try. We're not in it for the money. We're in it to do the show.
Yeah.
And if we can break even, that's we've won.
I mean, yeah, that's. I personally think that's what a show should be hosted for. Not, obviously, you don't want to lose money from it, but you want to be hosting it out of like your passion for aviation and ballooning and stuff, rather than for getting money.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to make money, the last thing you ever want to do is to run an air show. That's not the way of making money. it's the way of giving you something to do for a whole year.
Yeah.
And if you don't want endless phone calls at 10 o'clock at night with people asking questions, mainly pilots, then again, that's not the thing you should do. But yeah, we do it for our passion, really. And we want to make it as good as we can. We're very interested in bringing new people to air shows and balloon shows.
Yeah, that's our goal as well. So that's the whole reason we started this podcast, is to encourage people to get into aviation and the air show sort of circuit. So
Yeah, yeah, and it's difficult for us um, to actually attract guys of your era. We know what it's like. We know what a Spitfire looks like, how it sounds, and what the history of it is, and the excitement of a big jet. But trying to get that across to the phone and internet generation is quite difficult, because you send them you post a picture and they see the picture and they think that's it. But to actually be there and see it and feel it is something that
it's
is
something
very
so
difficult to.
special, though, when you're
Yeah,
there, which is, like I said,
yeah,
exactly why we made this, is mainly for the younger generation to hopefully get into this sort of passion that me and Joey both have, and to
yeah,
sort of continue. Because honestly, just hearing the Spitfire and the Mustang, just the pure sound of those engines and like the whistle that the Mustang makes, it's just so special when you're there in person, that you just can't really fathom when you look at a picture of it and go, oh, it's just a plane. But then when you're there, it's just something so
yeah.
different.
Exactly. It's not. None of them are just planes when you're actually there. They've all got their own little thing. Even the little Peter Davison, the little gyrocopter. We keep him coming back because the kids actually absolutely love it. It's so dynamic and
It is.
so silly. It's
Yeah.
it's so small and it's so it dances around. He's doing things in that gyrocopters were
Shouldn't
never
do,
built for.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
me and Joey
and
love the gyrocopter. We saw it at Blackpool as well,
yeah, yeah,
last year, and it's just
yeah,
always, yeah, it's always, and he
yeah.
comes
He
up
lives
right
up there.
real close to the fence as well, waving with his big Reds
Yeah,
hand and everything.
yeah.
So what sort of time does this air show sort of be hosted around? What sort of time or month should we really be expecting Midlands to be in?
Midlands is always the end of May, beginning of June. Um, we benefit from a lot of the time being the first to show a display in this country, which is good. And it's slightly early, I suppose, for the season. We open the season really, um, but we found it works for us in most ways. Sometimes you'll find that there's a rare aircraft that comes across and it's going to go everywhere, and it might not make us because we're slightly a week too early, but we can live with that. It helps us with getting the red arrows as well because there's no
Yeah, because no
major.
conflicting air shows.
No, only Torbay, which is um, way down the way across the coast. So yeah, that's basically why we do it, and I think um, yeah, school holidays may play a part. School half terms, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
may play a part as well. But that's more James's and John's area to
Well, yeah, we
sort
have
out
the
rather than
headline acts this year, like you were sort of saying, with some of the aircraft, with the MiG-17, and last year it was the F-86 Sabre, in my opinion. And you still get some of these really awesome aircraft
yeah.
every
The,
year.
the
So
the big problem for us, of course, is that sometimes we have to bring them over at fully our expense, and then they go back to Europe and then come back to the scene later in this
yeah,
country. In which case, a lot of the money, the fees are shared amongst three or four other shows, whereas we have to stump up for the full lot to bring them over and send them back. So, but that's okay. Nothing's perfect. We're if we want to get these things to show people, we've got to get them, and
yeah.
to get people through the gate. So, yeah.
Yeah. And you briefly mentioned that there's some rarer aircraft that you might not be able to get in the show because they start maybe a week later. Is there any aircraft that haven't been to Midlands Air Festival before that you would love to see at Midlands Air Festival?
Um, Yeah, loads of them. The big problem that we have is that we have a problem getting military, foreign military, because the foreign military um, say when we apply for them, they say, "One, yes, we'd love to come to your show, but on our schedule, we can only do one UK show." And of course, if it's a foreign military, it's RIAT. RIAT
Yeah,
gets all the foreign military. So some of the military stuff that we would like to get, we can't, never will be able to, no matter how big we get, because they want a runway, they want to have parties with their opposite numbers. You know, they want to network and all that sort of stuff. We're still trying. We're still trying to get some foreign military, but it's very difficult. But there's loads of stuff, and of course there's stuff as we speak now being restored in secret
yeah,
that we don't know about, nobody else knows about. um, and by the end of this year, or by the time it comes to book stuff, suddenly there's this wonderful aircraft available, and there's a big scrabble now for all the shows to get in there first, and that's where our first date in the season comes in handy,
yeah.
because
Your
we
first
sometimes
pickings, and really for that
first
aircraft.
get in, yeah, and we get the first marketing element out of it. So, yeah, it works both ways. And at the moment, we think that we don't want to change our date really, because we're not really in competition with others at the moment. No, we're not in competition with other shows that are going to wipe us out. Put it that way.
Yeah, it is unfortunate about foreign military, especially because I would love to see more foreign military displays in the UK, Midlands Air Festival included. But it is to be expected that if they're allowed one, RIA is definitely going to take that up very quickly. But moving on to the next question, is there a sort of pacing to the air show? Like, do you split things up in a way that keeps the pacing going at a smooth way?
Yes, generally we take care to um, use our assets in a creative way. But of course, we are um, under certain problems with certain aircraft. Have got what we call hard times, and they would generally be the MOD or any aircraft that we're sharing with another airshow like Torbay or Shuttleworth. So we have to put the hard times in first into our program, and then we've got to work around those hard times. So the hard times are times that we can't change. We can't say, well, I'd like that aircraft or that display to be further on down, or we'd like it to finish the show. If the hard time given to us by Red Arrows, for instance, is midday or 5 o'clock in the evening, so that they can get two shows in, we got to go with that. So we do our best to make it creative, make the program creative, but very often it's a very difficult thing to do. And the other difficult thing to do is reorganize if something goes tech, or we get weather problems. Biggest problem is weather at other places. Coningsby, for instance, you get a crosswind there. We don't get a crosswind. So people are saying, well, there's no crosswind. What are they talking about? But, you might say that the Lancaster or the DAC can't take off. So we've got to fill a slot or find something to do for that slot. So it's a balancing act, and it's one more thing that makes air
Yeah.
shows much more difficult than you think.
So with like sort of headliner acts, do you do one off? So I know last year we had the F-86, this year having the MiG-17, like 2023 we sort of had like the Red Bull display team. Will we ever really be getting those back, or are they sort of something that you plan to be a one-off and then may not be
Um,
able to get again?
we try to bring what we call the big ticket items. We try to bring a new big ticket item in each year. That's not to say we won't get them back again. We would love to have the DC-6 back. We'd love to. Personally, my favourite is the Draken. I'd love to have the Draken back. Um, and we tried to get it for this year, but there were all sorts of problems with the team that runs them. This year they had medical problems. They also had big celebrations going on in their own country. So yeah, we do want to get some of these big ones back again, but we're very conscious of bringing something new to the show every year. Otherwise, people can say, "Oh yeah, we've
seen them last year and seen them at other air shows and all that." I mean,
exactly.
My personal favourite was probably the Red Bull. I honestly love the Red Bull sort of team that came over with the B-25 and the DC-6 and stuff. And it'd be awesome if, I know we couldn't get the helicopter last year because it went tech or some sort of other issues, but it'd be awesome if we could get maybe some other variety of Red Bull, maybe the Corsair or the Mustang or the P-38 or something around that for coming years.
We've got cunning plans for next year, so we say. So there's always a plan going on. Whether they come to fruition or not is largely down. The Red Bull are very much like the MOD. They've got restrictions on them that they've got to go to a certain amount of Italian shows. They've got to go to Lesno. They've got to go to other places, and we come a little bit down the list. But they do their best for us, and they're actually appearing in this country at Duxford, I think, and possibly Shuttleworth later on in the year. So, and of course the DC-6 is out in the States, so that put out. But we're always working on getting the DC-6. That was one of the big favourites.
And of course, I personally agree with that. Yeah.
Felix in his helicopter was brilliant, and very, very sad that we lost him because he was one of our very, very popular pilots. I mean, we were blown away by the interest in people in Felix himself, and we had a line.
There was lines, wasn't there? Yeah.
Well, it's crazy. We've never had that before for anybody, even the Red Arrows.
Yeah, I mean, luckily I had slipstreaming clothes, so I got to meet him. I actually got a few photos with him, but I got to meet him and I got to get all the autographs and stuff. So, it was great meeting him on all 3 days, 2 days I think it was, but I met him there. But yeah, it was honestly such a great man. I mean, I learned about him in school, and then it was awesome seeing him then in real life. I think that was a very special moment for me, and it was really hard to learn that past.
He is the guy that he did the drop. He was on worldwide television for weeks, and you got to meet him. Something that you'll remember forever, and most of the people that met him also will remember.
Yeah, like I said, I got some autographs. I have a whole autograph book that I got from Midlands last year. So from some of the pilots, the commentators, Felix himself, I got a load of staff and that from autographs from the show last year. So yeah, a little piece of him will always remain with me and with Midlands. Like I said, I had the signed Midlands cap like you're wearing now from him. So yeah, he's an incredible guy, and I mean the displays were just it's so unexpected to see a helicopter going upside down, and it was something that shocked the whole show. Honestly, it was so amazing.
We try and do things like that. We try and get things like that, and I think our passion comes across in things like that, the different things, and people are starting to offer us different things. Andrew Whitehouse from the helicopters, classic helicopters or heritage helicopters, historic helicopters.
Is that the Sea King and Westland?
Sea King and the Whirlwind. Yeah, they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing a pairs display, which is very unusual.
Yeah, because we saw the Sea King last year, didn't we? Do a roll demo, and that was awesome. So it's cool that we got that back with an added helicopter with it. So
almost as big. Yeah. So that's we're all looking forward to that, and we're looking forward to the MiG. And of course, my favourite, of course, is the Firecat. I'm going to get the Firecat demo with him dropping over 3,000 litres of water in 4 seconds. So that'll be interesting. That's a big beefy aircraft as well. It's nice.
Yeah. So I'm personally looking forward to the MiG as well. I've never seen a MiG flying before. But you briefly mentioned the restrictions with the Red Bull displays. What are the restrictions? Because of where the airshow is based at Ragley Hall, is there any restrictions because of the location?
Not we're not too bad. We have to have a very thorough conversations with people like gliding sites that are around us. But we apply for and get our own airspace, our own controlled airspace. It's called a restricted airspace, temporary, or as we call it in the business, the RAT. And that gives us 3 miles radius around us and up to 6,500 feet above us. And that's our own airspace. So nobody else can come into that. And that sort of almost tags on to Birmingham Airport's airspace. So, and they're good for us. They maintain a radar watch on anybody that looks like they're coming into our RAT. So, and Bidford Flying Club, just down the road, they're very, very cooperative for us. They more or less close their airfield for us, and we use that as a satellite area. And that's it, basically. We issue information bulletins to all the airfields all around us, and so does the CAA and the airspace people as well. So, and it's NOTAMed, so that's notices to airmen go out, and every pilot should read their NOTAMs.
Yeah.
Because it tells them what's going on, what are the restricted areas, what are the shows going on, where they can expect to see high-speed display aircraft and that sort of stuff. So that's the technical side. That's the stuff I get bogged down with most of the time.
So where would you recommend people
so-
sort of sit? Because you know how it sort of curves round a bit. It sort of merges in the middle and then sort of curves around. Is there any way you'd sort of recommend people sitting? I know a lot of families go more to the right. Maybe more of the spotters and photographers go over to the left side of the, or sort of left and middle sort of side.
Personally, I would go centre of the hill, about just about a quarter of the way up. Obviously, you're going to get the early bird enthusiasts are going to get on the crowd line. So I mean that's a prime position, but about a quarter way up the hill is just as good.
Yeah.
Because you've got the rising ground and you're looking over the top of people, so you're not being blocked by anything. And we take very great care to not put up marquees on the crowd line. The only thing that we have to put on the crowd line, of course, is the flying hut, the temporary tower, and the commentary box.
Yeah.
Which we tend to try and move to one side a little bit, so we're not messing up too many people's view. You don't want to be paying a decent price for a ticket and then have to sit behind a marquee. With some shows of virtually all of the crowd line is marquees, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, it's really disappointing to see some of these air shows doing that. I mean, most of the ones that I'd go to, so like Midlands, like Little Grants, and luckily they put it well behind. I mean, you put it as far back as you literally can against the sort of tree line and the gates and fences of Ragley Hall itself. But yeah, it's. I mean, you do it perfectly. I think. I mean, it's such a amazing view as well. Even when the aircraft aren't there, you've got the forest to one side, you've got some nice fields to the other side. It's a nice
place
to
be, not just a nice place to be, and that's one of the reasons why we chose it. We saw, as soon as we were let in, basically, I looked at it and I was just saying, yep. Everything ticks off our list. It's got great sight lines. It's got a lovely atmosphere. It's so that's why we chose it. It's a good site, very good site. Very difficult to get another one of those if you wanted to do it somewhere else. There's not many sites like that where you've got all the technical areas. You've got a low flying area, which you have to have by the CAA, and of course you've got flight display lines which have got to be 230 meters away from the crowd. So that means that your low flying display area starts nearly a quarter of a mile away from you. So if you haven't got that depth behind the display line, then you still haven't got a sight, which means that some of the old sites for air displays now you can't operate an air display there. Things like Cotswold, we used to be called Kemble, great site you would think, and we've operated probably 10 years there with fast jets and hunters and what have you. But now the modern regulations after Shoreham, of course,
Yeah.
just can't do it. Just can't go there. So we're very lucky.
Yeah, that's
And we
something
are
that I
fairly
personally
unique.
didn't know is that it was 230 meters out. I personally didn't know that. But
Yeah,
speaking
the
of
larger aircraft is 230 meters, and then the smaller aircraft, if the weight and the speed
Sort of like the mono
allow,
display team and like the turbulence sort of display
yeah,
team. I
can
know they
come
can
in.
get a lot closer.
They can come into 150 meters away. We used to be able to bring people into 75 meters, but the regulations changed for that. So we can't use a 75 meter dispensation now. We've got 230 for the big stuff and 150 for the smaller stuff.
I suppose that is all for safety in the end of the day. Like you don't want to create extra risks that there doesn't need to be.
No, there are some aircraft that you can bring into 75 quite safely, but there are a set of regulations that if the regulations cross each other, then that means that you can't use the 75 because the regulations are not written very well on that particular item. We used to put the gyrocopter and the World War Ones and the turbulence could come into the 75 meter, and they could go down below the 200 feet rule. We've got a 200-foot rule.
So with
there,
actually,
which we
just
have.
quickly, with the turbulence, are they are they still allowed to do their display at Ragley Hall? Because I know they come in very close. They do their,
Not
flying
not
under
at the
the.
moment. No, we haven't got the turbulence this year. We're
I
negotiating
meant, sorry, I
with
meant,
the.
are they like legally allowed to display at Ragley Hall, or is it something that is sort of discontinued now because of the rule restrictions that made they have to be pushed back further?
Yeah, they are that that rule is discontinued for I say temporarily until we can get some clarification. We hope to have them back next year, but at the moment the rules, the regulations are that they've got to, if they could come back, they've got to do it on the on the 150 meter line, but they're not allowed to go below 200 feet, which is crazy. They can't do their show below.
Because they only go to like
200 feet.
5 feet on the when they fly under the pole and everything, isn't it? So
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a silly rule, and there's probably a way around it. But it's like all these things. These things have got to be negotiated and approved by the CAA, and they've got to be the rules got to be changed, and that takes time.
So moving on to the last question we have here. If anyone does have any questions whilst they're at the display, where can they find you or anyone to ask questions to?
Well, they won't find me. I'll be up to my neck in flying things, and I'll be in the what's called the VCR, the visual control room, or the tower, which is a large porter cabin on the crowd line.
yeah, just next to the
The best,
slipstream enclosure, isn't it? That's
that's
where
it.
that is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
best place to ask questions would be up at the event control area, where you come in with your ticket and get your ticket stamped. They'll answer most of your questions, and if they've got time, they'll phone through to the flying control if it's a specifically flying question, or the commentators will do their best to make sure that there's enough information coming out that we answer your questions before you ask them.
So, I just have a sort of maybe final question here, maybe sort of if I think a few more on the spot. But do you have sort of a little guide to Midlands, maybe what to bring, maybe where to go throughout the day, what time the breaks sort of are, just sort of helping people
Yeah.
prepare for Midlands?
Um, well, there's basic things like girls don't wear high heels because it's it's a sheep field basically when it's not an air show. So don't wear high heels. We don't have any restrictions on you bringing your own picnics. So if you want to bring a picnic, no problem with that. So that's that. You can bring your own chairs. That's not a problem. You can't bring gazebos because if you put a gazebo up, you'll be blocking somebody off
What's
behind
the
you.
rule on the little beach tents? You know, I don't know. We've
At the
there's
moment, the little windbreaky type things.
just a
Um,
sort of little. They're very small tent, sort of chair, sort of high. Not very. I mean, they're probably about as tall as a windbreak. Yeah, I guess it's just
yeah,
sort of very small little beach things. Maybe to more for protection from the rain rather than to sort of sit in.
yeah. Um, Let me put it this way: we haven't had a problem with anybody complaining about those. Um, so, uh, well, how can I put it? If we do get a complaint, we might have to ask the person to either move or put it down. If somebody is complaining behind them that they can't see over, so we try not to be too restrictive. We don't like ladders,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
big ladders. We're not going to be too prescriptive on the odd step. If somebody's got one or two steps that they want to go up on, that's not going to break the bank. But it's basically we're quite tolerant until it's taken away the pleasure of somebody else. If your passion is annoying somebody else or taking away their sightline, then be honest and either move somewhere else or take it down. Otherwise, we're going to have to, like other shows, there'll be a great long list of things you can't do and
yeah.
can do, and then it starts to take the
I mean,
pleasure
yeah,
out
I
of
mean, a
it.
lot of
So
people bring them every year. I see quite a lot of them. I mean, a lot of them aren't too big, luckily, and as
no,
it's a big slope, sort of as you go up, you can sort of see over it anyway. But yeah,
yeah,
I understand. I mean,
yeah.
it's
We haven't
basic
we haven't had
human
we haven't
compassion.
had yeah, exactly, yes, common sense
Yeah,
you know do it as you would be want to be done to. If you go to a show and somebody puts up a gazebo in front of you and you can't see anything and you just paid money to come in,
yeah,
it's a bit different from on a seaside show because you just have to move off. It's free, so
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
there's no problems. But yeah, we try and keep it pleasant, keep it sensible. Common sense is the rule. So that's
Yeah,
about it,
that's all.
really. There's plenty of food, plenty of food that you can buy, plenty of drink that you can get. Ice cream's all there.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if you want to drink, bring your own stuff, save a bit of money. We're not prescriptive about that. That's fine. All good. Um,
Yeah, I have a sort of question just as an aviation photographer. Um, is there, like, if I was to take some pictures at Midlands, which I will be doing, if I wanted to maybe um, give these pictures to Midlands Air Festival, how would I go about doing that?
on our website or our Facebook, a Facebook page,
Usually, you
you can
host
do that.
photo competitions anyway. Usually, so
Yeah,
I'm
we have a
sure
we
that.
have a photo competition, quite comprehensive one. We give out quite a few prizes for that. So first thing to do would be enter it in the competition. If you wanted to, uh, if you wanted us to post a particular thing, you can speak to James on the Facebook page, or just put it on the Facebook page
Yeah.
if you want. If you're not obviously you're putting it in the public domain, so if somebody else takes it and reposts it, You've
Yeah,
got
that's
to
why I
be,
usually add watermarks and stuff to the
you've got a
photo. So,
watermark on, or you just say underneath, credit please to
and
whatever.
obviously, if James or someone wants, so obviously most people will usually put a big watermark over the aircraft itself, and obviously if James might want to use that photo for Midlands, you can always give him the photo with a smaller watermark on it
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
actual
or a
website
request
itself.
for
Yeah,
a credit. Yeah. Or you can
exactly.
do
Yeah.
that through Claire. Yes. Submit anything through Claire is probably the easiest way, and then you're talking the same language.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
Joey, Joey, do you want to say your final question? Then we sort of need to wrap it up a little bit here.
yeah, it's not necessarily a question. I was just going to say, me and Ollie will be definitely be taking a lot of good pictures, so
Yeah.
we'll send them over and enter them into any photo competitions and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you all enjoyed that interview, everyone, and yeah, we'll see you in part 3. So, thank you so much, Trev, for coming on the podcast. I know it's
Yeah.
not easy with Midlands rapidly approaching in I believe 2 weeks' time when this podcast will be released. So
Yeah.
we appreciate you taking your time, and it's been awesome having you on.
No problem. Glad to get the TikTok generation
Yeah.
interested in what we're doing. So keep doing it. Yeah. Thanks a
No.
lot.
Yeah. No worries. We'll see you in part 3, guys. So we really hope you enjoyed that amazing interview with Trevor Graham. He's an amazing man, and we do hope he is watching this podcast. But yeah, I mean, amazing interview, and big shout out to Midlands Air Festival. Like we said, it's definitely something recommend going to next year. I know tickets are like sold out for this year, but it's something that you should definitely be going to next year. It's an amazing family show, and we do hope you enjoyed that interview. And like we said before the interview, if anything's changed, please let us know, and we'll try and get some clarification for you. But we are now going to move on to Take Off Thursday number 12, which is basically Static Saturday number 12. So, Joey, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, so the flying display for this Takeoff Thursday is the Gripen from Saab. This is not the Swedish Air Force Gripen. This is the second Gripen to be announced. This is from Saab themselves. So this is sort of like if BAE Systems
Yep.
sent a Typhoon there under the BAE Systems name, but it's Saab with the Saab JAS 39 Gripen. This was there last year. I have some great pictures of it. It's the notable one in that it has that fancy grey
Sort of
polygon
like
scheme
splinter livery,
uh,
yeah.
going on it, yeah. And it has the words AI powered on the rudder, so I can only assume that means the rudder is AI powered. I personally can't see what else that would mean. But this is a good flying display. I got some great pictures of it last year. I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, I mean, so far Riyadh hasn't particularly been cooking with their flying display announcements. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's been more weeks of announcement than there has been aircraft announced, which is not a good sign when you're going to an air show. But I mean, if Rio cooks these last few weeks of announcements, we can't really be complaining. But we are saying that the only things me and Joey are particularly looking forward to, or that unique to going to Rio, are the Turkish Stars and Tornado. But the Saab Gripen is always an amazing display. Always when you get the blue note sort of boo as it goes past. I mean, that's probably a terrible sort of representation of it. But yeah, some other statics include the L39 NG Skyfox, which is brand new, basically the updated, very updated version of the L39 Albatross that we actually do own privately, but technically we do use them for RAF training. So basically, we use them for electronic warfare. The Draken aircraft, not the Saab Draken, not to be confused with those. The private jet Draken we use as sort of like fake electronic warfare slash intercepting aircraft, and also with that we use aggressor aircraft of the L159 Albatross. So yeah, it's really cool to see that they have kept going with the Albatross project. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful aircraft. I've personally never seen one before. But then again, it might have been to Riyadh whenever I went in 2019. Like I said, I have seen a Phantom before, allegedly. Have I? I don't know. But yeah, it's an amazing aircraft, and I can't wait to get some beautiful static photos at Riyadh of the aircraft with Joey.
Yeah, I personally have seen an L39 before. There is a person at Blackpool Airport that owns one privately. As you said, we can own them privately or as part of the RAF. But yeah, the L-39 Skyfox is making its debut, a RIAT debut this year. Not entirely sure if it's the airshow debut. All I can see is that it's making its RIAT debut. Yeah. So that is not the only thing that was announced that's making its RIAT debut. The Kuwait Air Force is sending a C-130 Hercules, which will be the RIAT debut for that aircraft.
Yeah, now it is notable to say that the KC-130 or just the C-130 does go every single year. It's basically used by any display aerobatic team that still operate the C-130. So I know the Royal Jordanian Falcons will have a C-130 for equipment and crew transport. So there are a lot of C-130s, but specifically this KC-130 is making its debut as a static at Riyadh and just overall at Riyadh, to be fair. But you know what? It would be nice if we could get a C-130 display. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a C-130 display outside of a refueling demo. So it would be awesome if we could get something like the Atlas, like a C-130 demo, like the Atlas does sometimes.
Yeah, I think it would be really good to get pictures of some of these larger aircraft. You see the A400 doing displays, especially from people like the German Air Force and things like that. But to see something like a C-130 flying, I know in America the Blue Angels have their own
Fat Albert,
called like
yeah.
Fat Albert or something. Yeah, it's got rockets attached to it. I'm pretty sure like rocket assisted takeoff. But seeing a C-130 flying at one of these displays would be just incredible.
Yes, I mean, I love the C-130. I can't believe that we retired them. I mean, the green paint scheme that we had on a lot of them were absolutely beautiful. But our next aircraft is an IAR blimmin' Romanian plane, I think that is. I don't actually know what Air Force that's from. It's a very weird looking plane, and I personally thought that it was making its React debut, but no, Joey corrected me and said it was the Skyfox and the KC-130. But yeah, I mean, it's a very strange looking aircraft, and it's not something that you'd really see. I assume it's some sort of like trainer aircraft. Joey, I don't know if you have any more information on it.
No, I don't, but it looks like one of these sort of smaller aircraft. It's sort of like a PA-28, but in camo.
Yeah.
In that the doors are above the wings. It's a smaller propeller aircraft. But there's not a lot of information that I found on the thing. It is by a private owner as opposed to from an air force. Uh, I've got no information as to whether air forces own these and use these for training. But this one specifically is from a private owner.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'll be another awesome aircraft to see on static, but like I said, React is turning out to be a very static show, sort of like Farnborough, really. It's right now it's very static focused rather than flying focused. Now we do appreciate that there are ongoing wars and aircraft availability isn't that high, but I mean there is still like hundreds of display teams out there. I mean we're getting the MiG 17 at Midlands. I'm sure it's going to be here for the whole summer, so I'm sure we could probably get that at Riyadh as well. I mean we've had the MiG 21 at Riyadh before, we've had the Su 27 at Riyadh before, we've had the MiG 29 at Riyadh before. I don't know why we couldn't get something like the MiG 17 at Riyadh. So yeah, I mean we still love Riyadh and we'll still be going hopefully. Weather dependent and sort of stuff like that, because I mean if there's a massive thunderstorm going over the weekend, I'm sure it probably won't be on. But yeah, I mean hopefully it turns out to be a really good show. But at the moment, with the theme being fighter meet, there's like almost as many helicopters as there are jets going. So yeah, I don't know, we'll see how it turns out, I guess.
Yeah, and as we heard in the interview that we did, these air shows have to request that displays attend the air show. So it's not necessarily up to RIAT as to the like the sort of order that they get things announced. A lot of things could accept the display like right near the end of Takeoff Thursday, and they just have to do a really big Takeoff Thursday at the end. Or maybe they've had confirmation and they're just sort of drip feeding until they end when they start ramping it up. Or maybe they don't do that and there's just a lot of statics. So it's not necessarily on RIAT.
Yeah.
They do have to apply for these and they don't necessarily get back to them uh, like as quick as some people might want them to. But at the end of the day, this is RIAT. So people sort of expect a certain type of air show with a lot of
Yeah,
flying,
and like
a
Trev
lot of
said, a
loud
lot of
noises.
these aircraft
Yeah.
will have one UK show, and it will be Riyadh. So if they're not coming to Riyadh, it's I don't know. But I mean, I still support Riyadh. Obviously, I know it's not their fault, and I'm not trying to like take it out on Riyadh. But obviously, it is the biggest air show in the UK, and currently, I am more excited for things like Midlands, and Little Grange. Like I said in the interview, they just have a lot more variety of aircraft and a lot more unique aircraft. I mean, the Gripen goes every single year. The Typhoon goes every single year. Yeah, Typhoon, Gripen. What other aircraft like the F-18 as well? That goes every year. And things that go to Midlands, the MiG-17. When have you ever seen a MiG-17 in England? So yeah. Hopefully it gets better. I mean, there's been some self-confirmed ones. Spoilers ahead, being the Spanish Hornet and the Black Cats display team. I mean, there's going to be a takeoff Thursday or two where we will just get self-announced aircraft. I mean, I'm not trying to find out these, but it's just stuff that I've seen just casually scrolling through TikTok or whatever, or just going through Instagram, because the Black Cats one just came up on my Instagram. So yeah, I hope it's going to be a good show. But if not, it's still worth going to see some of these fighter jets that I haven't seen in many years.
Yeah, and then moving on to the last static, of course, we've got a bit of a tangent there near the end, but it is the Romanian Air Force AN-30, which I'm not sure that I've seen before. It's not its debut at RIAT, so I might have seen it last year, but I personally don't remember seeing it. I didn't get a look at all the statics last year, so if it was a static last year, I probably didn't see it. But I was more focused on the flying display, as I'm personally more of a flying display
Yeah.
kind of person. But it is still looking like a good React lineup. It could be better, could be worse. I'm excited to see the Tornado and the Turkish Stars, and I'm hoping that these last sort of uh, eight or so weeks of Takeoff Thursday are going to be just like hit after hit
Yeah.
on loads of fighter jets. It might not be. It might be
I have seen
quiet
actually
React
Riyadh.
this
I
year,
mean, it
but
doesn't mean anything, but Riyadh have like some comments about the F-35B roll demonstration from the RAF possibly going. But then again, it might just be a fly past. I mean, it's doing that at Cosford. It is just doing a fly past. But in 2022 or 2021, the F-35B did a full roll demonstration at Riyadh, so it'd be really exciting to see that coming back. And I love the demo actually. I mean, Stealth One is such an amazing call sign, and it's literally my name on Discord. My username on Discord is Stealth One, so I would love to see the F-35 do a roll demonstration at Riyadh, as it is a beautiful, beautiful display, really showing off the capabilities of a very rare aircraft that you don't see displaying in the UK.
yeah, the unfortunate thing is, I personally don't think that the sort of social media manager for React has access to the sort of information like what's not been announced yet but is performing. As much as hopefully they are doing the F-35 roll demo. I personally am of the opinion that the uh, sort of Instagram account holder uh, is just the social media manager, and not someone who knows what's performing necessarily.
I
They
think
have
they
the
do, to
cars.
be fair. I mean,
Yeah,
I think they definitely have at least 2 or so weeks in advance, and I guess then they get to pick what they announce, really. So I definitely think they do have the information. It's just the fact that they don't want to spoil it, really. But then again, I don't really know. We don't know behind the scenes of Rayat. So, but yeah, we are going to wrap it up here. Joey, do you want to take us through a very, very brief 2-minute recap of what we had just that whole episode that we just had?
yeah. So it was a sort of unique one in that we didn't have any war news. It sort of took us back to the first few episodes, like we didn't have war news. Then we talked about the weather news with the 4 tornado emergencies on one storm, the tornado in Argentina, our own personal experiences with weather in the UK, of funnels in the UK. We moved on to space news with the Falcon 9 landing streak being broken. We then talked about the Booster 19 static fire ahead of the launch on the 15th. We talked about the normal news with the plane hitting a truck at Newark Airport, and then we talked about the plane hitting a building in Brazil. We moved on to Spirit Airlines shutting down. Then we moved to the China Eastern Airlines hitting the jet bridge. Then we moved on to the interview, which is sort of the main thing. Personally, my favorite episode
Same,
that
yeah.
we've ever done, just because it was definitely like one of the biggest ones, at least that I've seen for podcasts. Then we moved on to Takeoff Thursday, which was the Gripen and the Four Statics.
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much sums it up. It's been my favourite episode, but like I said, we don't want it being too long, and we do want the main focus of the podcast being on Midlands. Not putting anything else down, obviously, we still love React, but that's going to be an episode for another day. And Midlands is coming up in 3 weeks' time. So, 3 Sundays' time, it will be Midlands Air Festival, which I cannot personally wait for. It's going to be a great show, I'm sure of it. And Joey will be meeting up for the second time and actually the third time in Riyadh. So me and Joe will be meeting up plenty this year and getting plenty of interviews with pilots, with ground crew, and maybe even with commentators of the show if we can get some maybe insider access to Midlands. But that's not something to get your hopes up for. That is just something that is maybe possible from some of the discussions we have been having. But yeah, we do really hope you enjoyed this episode. Joey, you said it's your favourite, it's my favourite as well. And we will see you next week. Take care, everyone.
Yeah.